from RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
Vice President Mike Pence returned to his home state to make a pitch for President Trump's tax reform package. It's something the president himself is expected to do when he visits central Indiana just a few days from now. RTV6's Rafael Sanchez was in Anderson, where the former Indiana governor paid a visit.
Katie, it's been a busy couple of days for Vice President Mike Pence. On Friday, he was here in Anderson talking about tax reform and other critical issues.
Graham Cassidy will give states like Indiana unprecedented freedom and flexibility to craft our own solutions for health insurance and to reform Medicaid for the most vulnerable, to bring better coverage, better care, and better outcomes for the people of this state and every state in America. In fact, when Graham Cassidy becomes law, Governor Holcomb will be able to finish what we started with the Healthy Indiana Plan. A vote against Graham Cassidy is a vote to save Obamacare. The Republican majority in Congress, in particular, was not elected to save Obamacare. They were elected to repeal and replace it, and it's time for every member of the Republican majority to keep their word to the American people. And once we repeal and replace Obamacare with the strong leadership of President Trump and working with the great Indiana leaders that are gathered here, we're going to cut taxes across the board for working families, small businesses, and family farms. President Trump has called on all the members of Congress in good faith to put partisan posturing behind us and come together as Americans to create a 21st century tax code our people deserve. And so I'm here in Indiana today on the President's behalf to say to all of you, we need your help. And Senator Donnelly, we need your help too. So Joe, let's decide today. We're going to get this tax cut done, and we're going to get it done together.
Next week, we expect President Donald Trump to come to Indiana to also talk about tax reform. But there are also other looming issues for the administration. A big health care vote is also expected in the days to come. Rafael Sanchez for Indianapolis This Week.
President Donald Trump is expected to continue to make the case for tax reform in Indiana next week. He's scheduled to visit central Indiana on Wednesday, part of a reported push to convince Democratic Senator Joe Donnelly to support the plan. The conservative political advocacy group Americans for Prosperity also announcing an expansive grassroots effort here in the Hoosier State. Senator Joe Donnelly isn't saying whether he'll support the president's proposals for tax reform, but he says he thinks it should include policies that protect existing jobs and create new ones. Donnelly says he thinks any overhaul should benefit the middle class and working families.
The mom and dad who get up in the dark and come home in the dark, that we want to make sure their paycheck gets a little bit bigger as opposed to skewing toward the wealthy end. And then I want to make sure that it doesn't cause damage to the deficit, that it doesn't continue to increase it. We don't want to put that burden on our children in the future.
Donnelly joined Pence on his visit to Anderson on Friday. He says he recently had the chance to discuss a proposal with Trump to address the outsourcing of jobs by companies like Carrier. The Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center finds the highest income earners would see the largest benefits from the president's proposals thus far. I asked the co-chair of the Rate or Reforming America's Taxes Equitably Coalition how the ideas could impact the middle class. Jim Pinkerton visited with business leaders in Indianapolis ahead of Pence's visit. He also writes for Breitbart, a controversial conservative news organization.
True tax reform, which is lowering the rate and broadening the base such that you have a wider net on which to collect tax money from, which is, say, fewer loopholes and deductions and so on. We think that's a key part of growing the economy, and we'll point out that the rest of the world is doing this. The United States now has the highest corporate tax rate in the world, and meanwhile other countries that we compete with, including Canada, which isn't that far from here, and the United Kingdom, which is a perfectly nice place to do business, and Ireland, for example, has a corporate tax rate that is 1/3 that of the United States. It is a perfectly nice thing to do to live and work in Dublin, Ireland, and if you're paying you're a corporation, you're paying 1/3 the rate of the United States. It shouldn't be a shock that companies are thinking, gee, maybe we should be in Ireland, not the United States. And so to come here to Indianapolis and to see the struggles that they're having to bring in Cummins, to expand the railroads, the good news about Salesforce being here, and to see, for example, a company like FedEx with such a huge presence at the Indianapolis airport, you're just reminded all these companies have a choice. Do they want to be in Indiana or do they want to be somewhere else? And the challenge to the governor, to the political leadership in this city, state, and the entire country is to make sure that business and investors and entrepreneurs want to locate here.
It could be a critical week in Washington in the debate on health care. Senate Republicans are racing to make a key deadline to pass their latest attempt at repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act. A procedural budget rule to avoid a Democratic filibuster expires on Saturday. I talked with Congresswoman Susan Brooks, who serves on the Health Subcommittee in the House.
I'm in a wait-and-see mode, quite frankly, as to whether or not the Senate can get the votes to pass it out. But I have heard this week while I've been home, still from so many Hoosiers whose premiums are so high that they are really struggling. They are struggling to pay their premiums. They are struggling with their incredibly high deductibles. We know that many insurance companies have chosen not to participate in the exchanges anymore, so there are fewer options now for Hoosiers. The system is just broken. It is broken. And so I would like to see a lot more choices for people in health insurance plans that they are offered, a lot more that they can choose from rather than just a couple in an exchange. I've always, and know that the patient groups that have been communicating with us very much want us to cover pre-existing conditions, and I believe that the governor would want to cover, and the state would want to cover people with pre-existing conditions, because so many people have a pre-existing condition right now. So, but I really do think that we're going to get to a better place, and even if we don't get through this next week, we're going to continue to work on this problem. We can't just walk away from it.
Should a plan to repeal and replace have been done by now?
Yeah, this is probably the most complex issue that we could have tackled initially in this new Congress. I certainly wish that it could have been done by now. I was disappointed when it wasn't finished. So I hope that we can get it done. We are certainly up against a deadline of September 30th in order to use a procedure called reconciliation. But if we get it done, I think that would be a very positive thing moving forward, but if we don't get it done, we're going to continue to work on it.
Up next, is this the last chance Republicans have to repeal the Affordable Care Act? We'll ask our political insiders, plus find out what they think about pointed criticism of the mayor over Indy hitting the 100 homicide mark this week.
Unfriendly Honda of Fishers.
Welcome back. We're joined by our insiders now, Democrat Kip 2, Republican State Senator Jim Merritt, also chair of the Marion County Republican Party. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see you.
Talk first about repeal and replace. Is this Republicans' last chance to repeal the Affordable Care Act?
I don't think it's the last chance. I think it's a good chance that we can start building the health care system rebuilding the health care system in our country. And I think this package that Senator Graham has put on the table is well worth the debate, and sending money and the ability to craft healthcare policy back to the states is a great idea.
Well, according to Senate rules, if they don't do it by September 30th, they cannot revisit it until sometime next year. So I think it becomes much more difficult. You know, the interesting thing here is I think Graham Cassidy, which he just referred to, is worse than anything that they've proposed so far. And certainly almost every single patient group that cares about health care have come out opposed to this proposal. So it will be interesting. I mean, here's a big difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Democrats are fighting to stop this. But from a political standpoint, if it passes, I think Democrats will roll in the 2018 elections.
Well,
this gives power back to the states. And number one, and two, after September 30th, it's 60 votes you need, not 51. And so you can still work on it. and there still can be a compromise if that's what the people in Washington want. But
does this come back to haunt Republicans in 2018?
No, I don't believe so. I think we have proven with HIP 2.0 in the state of Indiana, at least for the state of Indiana, I believe that this would give us a real ability to put healthcare policy and our philosophies and our principles to work.
HIP 2.0 depends on the federal government dollars, and it is Obamacare with one small tweak. And the Obama administration approved HIP 2.0 because it was so much like Obamacare. So if every state did HIP 2.0 and don't get their federal Medicaid money, then you really don't have a system. You're going to have to cut everybody.
Well, marketing principles and healthcare policy is good, and HIP 2.0 has that. And we'll just see what happens with Senator Graham's bill next week. And I understand they're going to have debate. And Senator McCain, that's what he's been demanding. And we're just going to have to see what happens in Washington.
Vice President Pence, President Trump, both making stops here in less than a week's time to central Indiana to try and sell this tax reform plan. Why Indiana? What's the impact here?
I'm guessing Vice President Pence just wanted to come home for the weekend. I don't know why Trump's coming.
Well, I think
if he has to sell it in Indiana.
Yeah, I think what they're doing is, first of all, Senator Donnelly is a vote, number one, and two, I think they want to be in the heartland. President Trump's going to be in Alabama working in the election. I think they're just picking states where they can go and spread the word and get a lot of people excited. And I'm pleased that Senator Trump and Vice President Pence are going to be here.
Is it a sign, you think, of something they think could be a hard sell, potentially?
I don't think so. When you're talking about tax reform, I'm not sure that anybody is against that. I think...
well, the devil's in the details, Senator. I mean, come on. If there's not middle-class tax cuts, if it is another big giveaway to the rich, then I guarantee you Senator Donnelly won't be for it.
Well, and also, you can go anywhere in this country and speak on these issues. And with social media and the spread of news, you can talk anywhere, and it would hit everyone in all 50 states. And so... I'm certain that this is home for Vice President Pence. It's a good place to get started in Anderson, Indiana today, and I think when they talk about tax reform, it gets the markets excited, and nothing but wins. And I look forward to the debate on tax reform.
A little more local here in Indianapolis, Senator Merritt, you sent out a press release earlier this week criticizing Mayor Hogsett over reaching that 100 homicide mark here in the city of Indianapolis. You said that he needs to step up and face the public safety crisis. Explain that. Kip, want to hear if you think that's fair.
Well, my friend Joe has really not talked. You don't see him out in the communities and meeting with different groups. And I think he needs to be way out in front of this. 100 murders in Marion County is something that saddens me and something that we need a constant conversation about. And I don't see that. And that's why we put the release out, that it's something that we absolutely need to work on. When the prosecutor says at his budget hearing that they don't have enough money that's being budgeted in the city county council budget, the public defender is way under budgeted. And so really the bottom line is the bottom line here. Where are we going, and what kind of new programs? The mayor did campaign on this a couple years ago.
Yes, he did, and
we need to go. We need to get something done.
And let me say this, Senator, you've been in the state Senate for 27.
Not in the United States.
Yes, 27 years. The city of Indianapolis, Marion County, has been a net donor county by the Indiana Fiscal Policy Institute of $300 million a year. If you were fighting in the state Senate for our fair share of money, we'd have plenty of police officers on the street. We could spend the money on crime prevention that we need. You need to go to your members in the state Senate and say, give Indianapolis the money they deserve that they're handing out to the suburbs and everywhere else so they can fight the crime. If you're serious about this, and this isn't a political ploy, you need to go to your boys and tell them to bring the money where it belongs. That's where the real criticism.
Well, I think, Kip, one of the problems that we have is we have no idea what is in that budget. We call it the mystery budget because all of a sudden the sheriff wants to get rid of part of what he does. The prosecutor's saying one thing. The IMPD doesn't have enough money. We need to get a handle. Right now in that budget, there is budgeted 15% of cash, unrestricted cash, in the state of Indiana, and traditionally only keeps 12%. So there is cash in the Marion County budget.
Why aren't you fighting for Indianapolis's fair share? We are a net donor county of $300 million a year. $300 million a year. We give out more than what we give out when we take it in. It's just ridiculous.
There are plenty of grant opportunities with the Indiana Criminal Institute and Criminal Justice Institute, and Indianapolis does get a lot of money. Obviously, you pointed out we don't get enough, but we ought to be able to take care of our own business. And I wanted, the reason behind the release is I want the mayor to step out and say what he's going to do.
We have to keep it at that. We're out of time here. Thank you both for being here, though. It's a place where what's old isn't old. It's Erica Fly's latest stop for 6 in the city. You're watching Indianapolis This Week on RTV.
Rallies and checkers. Fast foodies know the deal.
I'm Erica Fly, and 6 in the city is taking it back in time where what's old is getting new life.
They're unique, one of a kind.
And they're on display at the Indy Arts and Vintage Marketplace. Shoppers have their eyes peeled.
They're looking for something that says, hey, buy me.
Vendors are ready to cash in.
This is my place, folk, funk, and whimsy. It covers everything. I can sell whatever, then it is covered.
It's epic finds and furnishings. A lot of stuff, things that you'd find in your grandma's attic.
It's just a combination of really interesting vendors and really interesting stuff.
John Jenkins has been putting on shows like this since the 90s.
This was sort of a riff on what was going on in New York City and Chicago at the time.
5 years ago, he brought the marketplace back home to Indiana.
I was doing shows in Ohio, Tennessee, Connecticut, and I've lived here all my life, and heck, why don't I have a show where I live?
It's all the rage right now. Anything vintage, antique, artisanal, upcycled, repurposed.
This is a tobacco dryer. Guess it's used to dry the tobacco leaves before they make them into cigarettes and things, I suppose. So.
And that's what you're going to do with it?
Nope.
The marketplace concept just might give malls and big box stores a run for their money.
You know, you're not going to buy anything here that your neighbor's going to say, oh my gosh, I love that, I have 3 of them.
And it's on the move, setting up shop at different locations monthly. This one at Clay Terrace in Carmel. But one thing stays the same. You never know what you're going to find.
Be prepared to be surprised.
John calls the marketplace a great laboratory. He says if you think you have a cool or unique product, you can experiment a little as a vendor and see if you can make some money from it. For a list of upcoming locations, vendor applications, and more info, we have a link in the hot button at theindychannel.com.
Disrespectful. That's what the IPS Teachers Union is calling the decision to force high school teachers to reapply for their jobs. This week, Call 6 Investigates learned more than 300 high school teachers will have to undergo a process to get rehired at the 4 high schools that will remain open next fall. The district says the decision will allow staff to match their skills and interests with the new programs and academies at Arsenal Tech, Crispus Attucks, Shortridge, and George Washington high schools. Last Monday, the school board voted to close 3 high schools. Representatives for the teachers union say they opposed the plan when the superintendent informed them of it.
To move everybody and just cause a upheaval in the middle of the year. You know, now all teachers have to interview start next month, and I know Dr. Fairby said that he wants to have them placed by the end of before winter break. So I just don't know how all this is going to go.
About 150 IPS high school teachers in 4 programs are exempt and are guaranteed jobs for the next school year. They could be the future faces of the news right here on RTV6. This new state-of-the-art studio is giving kids at Carmel High School the opportunity to learn about broadcasting. Students in the CHTV program have been producing and anchoring news broadcasts from 5 separate rooms. But this week they debuted the new digs with new cameras, teleprompters, and other equipment modeled after what you can see right here on Channel 6 and other TV stations.
We had a designer come in and kind of design this layout in this studio, and it's a big upgrade. It's professional. It's what we would see in a real news station, and it's giving my students a lot more opportunity to utilize a space that they may utilize in the future if they choose to go into this career path. 65 students make up the CHTV staff. Lauren Casey is here with what's happening around Indy that you'll need to put on your calendar. The 6 is next, right here on Indianapolis.
Plainfield.
Lots of clear skies expected across much of the Midwest for today and really over the next several days. The pattern holding together, high pressure and control clear skies. This is our next weather maker. but it's not going to arrive until much later, in fact, by middle of the week or so. So when you look at TrueCast, you set things into motion. Sure, a few showers farther to the south outside of Indiana, but we keep the skies clear for the most part, not just for your Sunday today, but into Monday as well as into Tuesday, although a few clouds may creep in by the day on Monday and even into Tuesday. We're really going to start to change that up. We're going for 90 for our high temperature today. This is 15 degrees above the average and potentially just 2 degrees shy of the record of 92. We could get very close to that. We'll have to watch and see if we surpass that 90-degree reading. 65, our expected number for tonight. We don't see the temperatures cool down much over the next several nights or so, although we do have some relief on the way. That front arrives Wednesday, and we'll get this front to move through here with the temperatures feeling a lot more fall-like.
Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Lauren Casey. It's time for the 6, so let's take a look at 6 things coming up this week in Indy. Live on the edge a little. It's Banned Books Week at the Kirk Vonnegut Museum and Library. They'll have guest speakers, food, and reads planned for you all week long. You can celebrate your freedom to read and discuss some censorship issues. And it's almost here. The much-anticipated Chicago-style dogs making their way to Fishers. The newest Portillo's location is opening its doors to the public on Thursday. The ribbon cutting takes place at 10:30, just in time to get you a little hungry for lunch. We'll grab the kids, head on over to the Hamilton Town Center Harvest Festival this Saturday. They'll have food trucks, breweries on site, a marketplace, and a number of activities. The fun runs from 3 until 8. The Turn Festival is an annual celebration of urban sustainability. You can head on over to the Paramount School of Excellence and take part in a number of farming, food, and health workshops. The festival kicks off at noon this Saturday. And hey, grab your best buddies, stop by the city market this Saturday for some old-fashioned fun and a little bit of a tough competition. That's right, it's bocce and espresso, a tournament happening on Saturday. The first rounds begin at 10 a.m. with more rounds heading into the afternoon. And then sip a locally made spirit, enjoy a cocktail with a Hoosier twist. It's the first annual Indiana on the Rocks event here in Indianapolis. Several local craft distilleries will be on hand Saturday starting at 1 p.m. This new event takes place at the Circle City Industrial Complex. That's what's on tap this week in Indy. Back to you.
And thank you for joining us from our entire team here. We hope you have a great Sunday.